Yo, what up, dudes? Who's excited for Changli? I 100% am, and it's not just because of her really awesome character design, but it's the fact that I think her DPS is going to be really good, and she has the ability to fill in as a sub DPS and a main DPS. Now I'm going to give you her best build, team, and also I'm just going to lightly go over her skills. I'm not going to read every single part of the fine print. And like I said, dude, she could be used as a regular DPS or a sub DPS. Alright, let's get into this. She will be a fusion type sword user, so if you are going to pull her, make sure you collect all the materials that you need to upgrade sword user skill sets. And here's all the ascending materials you'll need for this character: the Pavo Plum, Rage Tacit Core, and Crude Ring. Now let's get into her Echo set. I'm going to get the Lingering Tunes element out of the way first. You can put Lingering Tunes on her. I would only suggest this if you want to use her immediately and you do not have Molten Rift or Moonlit Cloud set. And obviously that's just my opinion. I mean, maybe somebody else knows something that I don't, but I've used the Lingering Tunes set and it really wasn't putting out, man. So yeah, I'm only going to suggest Lingering Tunes as a last resort. Alright, now I did say that you can build her as a main DPS or a sub DPS. So if you're going to build her as a main DPS, you want to use Molten Rift set. As a sub DPS, you obviously want to use the Moonlit Cloud set and try to get as much energy regen as possible. With the Molten Rift set, everyone probably knows that Inferno Rider is going to be by far her best main Echo until they bring out another fusion Overlord level Echo that can compete with Inferno Rider. And for the Moonlit Cloud set, you're probably going to want to get Impermanent Terran, although I call him Chicken because he likes to backpedal and fly away like a bitch. But his Echo set has the ability to give you some energy regen, and that'll be really huge if you're trying to use her as a sub. Besides that, all the stats and substats are going to be dependent on what you want and how you want to build her. You can give her some more energy regen, more DPS, or maybe a little bit of both. Now when it comes to her best weapon, it's probably going to be Blazing Brilliance, her signature, but I think Emerald of Genesis will work too because any 5-star that gives you crit anything is always good. I don't know what Blazing Brilliance does exactly yet, but I know it's going to be tailored towards her character. So this guy pretty much already nails it because after those you can do Lunar Cutter, Commando of Conviction. You get Commando of Conviction at the very beginning in the weapons box you get. So yeah, any of those would be good. And now finally I'm going to get into her skill set, and like I said, I'm going to lightly go over it and just try to summarize everything and give my opinion on it. And obviously I'm not going to truly know about her kit until I use her character, which I plan to do pretty soon. Alright, so her whole objective of her basic attacks is to get into True Sight, and you could do that every 4th attack, whether that be your 4th basic attack on the ground or 4th basic attack in midair. And when you enter True Sight, it'll last for about 12 seconds. When in True Sight for your basic attacks, you have 2 types: True Sight Conquest and True Sight Charge. True Sight Conquest is going to be when you do your ground basic attack. So when you're in True Sight and do a ground basic attack, you will be doing True Sight Conquest, and you will rapidly approach the enemy and dealing fusion damage. True Sight Charge is whenever you do an attack in midair and you'll dash towards the enemy, dealing fusion damage. You can also enter True Sight after releasing your resonant skill, which is called True Sight Capture, in which Changli will actually release a plunging attack dealing fusion damage. So that's pretty much the whole thing dealing with True Sight. I do believe Changli's character is going to be all about damage windows and doing as much damage as you can in those windows. True Sight lasts for 12 seconds, and that's just the basic part of her kit. Now moving on to her Resonance Liberation. Radiance of Fealty, deal fusion damage to nearby targets. That's basically the way I'm seeing it, is like Kalkuro whenever you use his Resonance Liberation, and he does kind of like a AoE at the beginning that sends electric damage out to all the enemies. You'll obtain 4 stacks of Enflammement and Entering Fury Feather. When Changli releases heavy attack Flaming Sacrifice within 10 seconds, her attack is increased by 25%, after which Fury Feather ends. So like I said, dude, this is kind of like Kalkuro's Resonance Liberation, where you're going to have a window to do all this damage and bust out your combos. And this is going to do a lot of damage, I assure you. Alright, let's get into her Forte circuit. So, Flaming Vow. Heavy attack, Flaming Sacrifice, which we know is important for her ult. When releasing heavy attack, if Changli carries 4 stacks of Enflammement, she consumes all stacks of Enflammement to release Flaming Sacrifice, dealing fusion damage. So you'll be doing that when you do her ult. Enflammement can be obtained through using True Sight basic attacks, and you'll gain 1 stack. You can obtain 4 stacks of Inflamement for every Resonance Liberation Radiance of Fealty you'll do. So you'll automatically get it when you use your ult so that you can immediately use Flaming Sacrifice to consume all 4 stacks. Going over some of her passives, when you do True Sight basic attacks and gain a stack of Inflamement, Changli's fusion damage is increased by 5%, and that's for each stack, so you can go up to 20, which is huge. We're getting into the part where I said she could be a really big damage dealer. Sweeping Force, when Changli releases heavy attack Flaming Sacrifice or Resonance Liberation Radiance of Fealty, Changli's fusion damage bonus is increased by 20%, and Changli ignores 15% of the target's defense when dealing damage. That 20% is pretty huge, but ignoring a target's defense is pretty big. 15% doesn't sound like a lot, but when you add all the damage that you're stacking up together and ignoring the target's defense, that's literally a recipe for melting HP bars. The rest is pretty simple, dude. Her intro skill is she appears in midair and attacks the target and enters True Sight automatically. Her outro skill, which is basically why she's a good sub DPS, increases the Resonator's fusion damage by 20% and their Resonance Liberation damage by 25%, lasting for 10 seconds. So if you're planning on optimizing that, you definitely go with the Moonlit Cloud set. Her best team by far is going to be her paired with Encore, no doubt about it, just because of her outro skill that boosts fusion damage by 20% and the Resonance Liberation by 25%. That's just going to be huge for Encore, who already does a shit ton of damage. And that could be with any healer. I know a lot of people are going to say Verena, but really just use the healer that you like to use and you'll be solid. But yeah, that's Changli, and I'm telling you, dude, she's going to be one of the best characters in this game.